And welcome, Dave and Tiff, back here on the podcast. And, so many things have happened since last week, as always. And it's surprising me because, people tell me, oh, there's no sports going on. What do you guys have to talk about? But I think what's great about this period of time when there's not as much live sports on, you get a chance to kind of spend a little bit more time on some other stories and topics. Kind of like what you see on TV, right? You see a lot more like the E60 specials, where it's about stories about people, things that they're doing outside of the court, outside of the field. And I guess that's a little bit more refreshing in some respects, although people still want the live action, which is going to be coming. So in NBA, NFL, be coming. But, last week we touched a little bit on the Washington NFL team name, kind of going through the changes. So today we're going to touch on something that's in Hawaii locally hitting related to that, and that's the high school Kahuku Red Raiders having a little issue now with that name. So that'll be on deck for today. We're also going to talk about some dates and things like high school sports finally has another date set as to when they can start. We'll also have a special guest coming up today, and from the University of Hawaii men's volleyball team, one of the teams that had their season cut short. But we're going to have Tiff, one of the great guys you said, who we'll have a lot of fun with.
We mentioned this a couple weeks ago, Dave, and he's somebody that has always joined. He's always been very gracious with his time when he's joined me on the post game for our men's volleyball broadcasts. Get your popcorn ready, because whenever you have GAGE WORSLEY on as the interview, you don't know where it's going to go. And he's been all over the country since men's volleyball had their season. Since they had this season canceled back in March. He's in Moraga right now. Is actually at Stanford University filming a project for one of his projects that his brother Joe, Max Rosenfeld, Rado Patapunov, they've all teamed up a very great project on YouTube. Out of System 808 is their podcast. Very thankful, very excited to have GAGE join us in a few minutes.
And GAGE, didn't he get named AVCA All-American this past season?
First team All-American for the second straight year. He's a two-time All Big West first team selection. All freshman a couple of years ago as well, and just a phenomenal player, but an even better person.
Well, looking forward to talking with GAGE in a little bit, live from Stanford, California, a place that will no longer have men's volleyball, by the way, after this coming academic year. But let's go to what locally the story that came out of the Star Advertiser, and this is about Kahuku High School. Now, the heat is on about name changes that relate to what are considered ethnic or racial slurs, especially when it's considered with the Native Americans or the Indians. That's what prompted Washington of the NFL to say they're going to change their name. And it's kind of spurring on a lot more discussion about that. And Kahuku, which is the nickname, the Red Raiders, a big athletic program out of the North Shore, most notably for football, but almost every other team sport, they seem to be in the state tournament. So they're having a little debate in their North Shore community now. Red Raiders and pro for it because of the history that they've had this name since the 50s. And of course, there's the movement of people who want to have it changed, much like those that wanted the Redskins name to be changed and all these other names that have Native American connotations of it. So there seems to be a little bit of obviously a split there. You have the folks that are, hey, this is tradition, this is historic. And of course, those in the movement now of wanting to say, let's go be more neutral about it. I look at both sides, and I read the article that came out in the Star Advertiser today, and you can see the pros and cons of both sides. And one of the things I was interested to find out is that when I Googled up what the definition of raider. Okay, so a raider is simply a person that raids or attacks an enemy in the enemy's territory. You are a raider. That's why sometimes you have the pirate picture, right? They raid a ship on their ship. The red in Red Raiders actually came from a 1927 silent black and white movie in which it was called The Red Raiders, which was those old westerns about the cowboys and Indians. And of course, the Indians were portrayed as being the bad guys, which a lot of those old westerns are. And they were categorized as the Red Raiders. So, I don't know, Tiff, what do you kind of grab on the whole thing about the Red Raider name?
This one's tough for me because I get the whole social, connotation with it all, with everything that has been going on the last few months. And like you mentioned about the Atlanta Braves, of course, the Washington Redskins, now it's the Washington football team as they're trying to figure out a nickname. This one's tough for me because my alma mater, Iolani School, was actually one that donated football jerseys to Kahuku High School. And as a gesture of thank you for what Kahuku received from Iolani, they kept the nickname Red Raiders because the jerseys had Red Raiders on them. And so, or the jerseys had Raiders on them, and of course Kahuku, their main color is red, so they adopted the nickname Raiders, added the red part. Iolani has always been the Raiders since the 50s. They've dropped red way back ago. This one's tough. I can see both sides to the argument. It's tough.
The thought is that Iolani, I was before we started this thing, I asked some Iolani alums about, I remember Iolani as the Red Raiders, and when did they do away with the red? And a couple of people said it was sometime in the late 80s, early 90s when they actually did away with the red, changed the logo. But you think about it, Iolani was smart to kind of foresee the potential of controversy in the name, and therefore did the change without much hoopla, without it being a big controversy, because it wasn't that back then. Now, with the whole Black Lives Matter and the Redskins being washed away, Kahuku is in the broil of it. And you look at their sign at the football stadium, it's an Indian's profile with the whole Indian face. So although if you want to go Red Raider, it's not necessarily an Indian thing, their picture is of an Indian. So it'll be interesting to see how that weighs out. And the same kind of back and forth that you saw with Washington and some of these other programs is, it's a name that's been long standing, and there's arguments saying that it is not depicting the Indian, but rather Kahuku has a totally different interpretation of what Red Raider is. It is the color, like you said, of the school, and Raiders in terms of the typical nickname of beating an opponent and that kind of thing. So
and they're also saying it, they're also making it clear to everybody that it's more of a Polynesian figure than anything. And so to get back to the Iolani side, what I've always been in the minority on this one is that Iolani, when you translate it, means heavenly hawk. And so I've always thought that Iolani should be the Hawks or the Red Hawks based off of what the meaning or the definition behind Iolani is.
Oh, I didn't know. I learned something every podcast from you, Tiff. The hawk. Okay. Yeah, and the whole, there's talks about maybe just changing Kahuku's name to Raiders as well, and there seems to be some that would say that would be okay too. And I have a feeling that some of them just maybe want to be independent and say, no, we're going to stick to it. So it's going to be a little bit of a battle there. But segueing into high school sports, August 19th is the latest date in which officially extracurricular and co-curricular activities can start up in high schools, which high school sports fall into that category. So if August 19th stays, then things like the fall sports could not be as delayed as potentially thought, because there was a previous date earlier of August 31st when things would start, but then they've kind of moved it up a bit. So that's a positive and that's hopeful. Whether that actually stands its ground on that date is to be seen.
It's a tough and fluid situation for everybody for what's going on, and the fact that this whole coronavirus situation, it has really dampened the spirits, not just of the general public, but of these high school kids. We've talked about the bubbles that are happening in professional sports, that they're able to do this because they are professional athletes. Collegiate sports may have a little bit of trouble because you have young men and women who are ages 18 to 22. You can't necessarily do a professional bubble but the fact that they can maybe delay their season by a semester or what have you, they could maybe get a year or so back. We've already heard that spring sports athletes are going to get a year back in 2021. We haven't heard anything on fall sports yet, but nothing is going to be delayed with the status of high school kids. And so for these athletes, we've already had the class of 2020 go through an entirely different type of spring semester, different types of graduations. Those spring sport athletes didn't get to play in state tournaments and didn't get to compete for league titles. You hope that there's some way that that high school sports can find a way to happen, because it's not the kids' fault. It's just an unfortunate, unforeseen circumstances that this has delayed everything that's been going that normally takes place throughout the year.
And you know, one idea that I read that I kind of didn't think about, but it could be a good one, is the thought of moving some of the spring sports that are not considered high risk to the fall, if you're going to have fall sports move back, because the fall sports, football is the biggest one people talk about, and that's considered high risk because of the contact, so forth and so on. And if you look at high schools can't afford to have every helmet with those shields that the NFL is talking about, which I think is a great idea, putting those shields on so that there's less chance of the droplets spreading. But high schools can't afford that. But the thing about bringing about moving high schools sports football to the spring, well, it makes a logjam of sports in the spring. But maybe if you put baseball, softball, tennis, some of these spring sports into the fall, that would maybe alleviate the logjam and kind of spread things out a little bit. But guess what, Tiff? Guess who's in our waiting room?
And he's not coming from his house. He is on location from Stanford, California. This is going to be good, Dave. I can't wait.
And from Stanford, California, how's it going, Gage? Can you hear us?
How's it? Thank you guys. Hey, sorry about the delay here, but thank you guys so much for letting me on the show. This is awesome. How we doing, boys?
We're doing great.
It looks like you're walking. Are you actually walking?
I was walking my friend Rado here, in the background, as you can see here. But no, yeah, we were just filming something for Stanford here, for Stanford, Dave Stanford's men's volleyball. We just finished, but now I'm in the car. Now we're good to go. But I'm glad to be on the show. Thanks for letting me here.
Well, could you give us a little tease as to what this project is you're doing over at Stanford?
Basically, what happened is we snuck in the gym, and then we went. I'm just kidding. No, we didn't do that. No, but we're kind of. So Jordan, you were a close friend. He's here with us right now. He obviously affected by this as anyone in the volleyball community is. And we were like, he approached us. He's like, we need to kind of get this message out more, right? Just kind of spreading the message about saving Stanford men's volleyball, because they just cut their men's program. And they're like, okay, we don't have a huge platform. We have a platform. So we kind of came up with the idea, and we're okay. Within the next couple of days, here we are. We're on Stanford's campus, and we're filming something. It's kind of an interview / informational film, kind of mixture between that, and we'll get it out by the end of the week or beginning of next week.
All right, so doing something to help out with the volleyball community. Well,
yeah, they call us the Steven Spielbergs of our time, but I'm humble about it. Whatever.
Oh,
Gage, that really kind of segued into our first topic, was the fact that throughout this summer, this is a new project. Out of System 808 on YouTube with you and Joe, Max, and Rado. Talk a little bit about how it came to be, how it developed into now almost 2,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah. So first I'm repping it right here. You see? Oh, what others see? There we are. This is our logo right here. The full one's on the back. Check us out. Out of System on the YouTube and Instagram. But so Joe comes up with an idea. He's like, you know what? He's like, I got a personality. I got idiot friends with good personalities. So I was like, put it in front of the camera. Maybe something can happen. Okay, so we start doing podcasts. And the first podcast, we couldn't even get the video working on Zoom. So it was literally just a picture of like GAGE WORSLEY talking to that. And we were talking, it was so bad. And then we kept getting a little better. And I couldn't tell you how many fights we had before the show, like literally. And the good thing is we kind of have connections in the volleyball world, so we can get like big names. It was terrible. It was it's not like we were terrible just interviewing. It was just like terrible just like quality. And we were the best interviewing. We've gotten better since then. And then so we're getting there, and we were like fighting before shows sometimes. We're like, you know what? And we kept doing more and more. And we're like yelling, really yelling, and all of a sudden we had to go on air and be like, hello, welcome back to Out of System, because we had so much technical difficulties. And then we decided, okay, let's keep doing this. And it is a bubble podcast. And then we started doing pre-recorded shows on our YouTube channel, making it easier. There were still some like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. nights, or a couple nights in a row like that, figuring stuff out. But we're finally kind of moving in the right direction. So we started doing that, and we loved and I always kind of love doing stuff for video. I used to have like a GoPro, and I still do, and I used to kind of put stuff on there, but now I kind of get to really explore some stuff, kind of go down that route. And so now we're kind of expanding to more stuff, more than a podcast. We just went to AVCA, go in that tournament, released 2 vlogs there, released our games, and our stuff's starting to kind of get a lot more views. And we're kind of expanding in that. So we're going to try and keep doing stuff, kind of give the people, the viewers in Hawaii, kind of what's life like on the team, just kind of the boys, just kind of what it's like.
Awesome.
Hey, tell me about that tournament you guys just won. Tiff was kind of giving us a little bit of the drama that happened there.
Yeah. Oh, so much. Well, first, if I were to describe it I'll give 2 words: lit and legendary. Those are the 2 words that I describe it. So basically, it's the biggest grass tournament in the whole nation. It's called the AVCA Boat Ride Open volleyball tournament. And I'm not kidding. Usually they have, 500 courts there usually going on, maybe more. 500 courts at once. They had to cut it down because of coronavirus regulations. And then so we go, and Dalton asked us about 2 months ago. He's like, hey, I want to come over, because he lives by the area. It's in Wisconsin. It's in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We're like, sure, why not? So we go over there, and we get over there for a week, start training, get over there. And like, apparently this has been like the best tournament they've had since like they started. And it's been going on for a while. It's a huge event. They couldn't put all the stuff that they usually have on. They usually have a campsite and whatnot, but they couldn't have that this year because, again, coronavirus. But then it was huge, and like the best, like there was like a bunch of AVP players, and then we just kept working our way. We played a total of 15 sets in one day. And we ended up winning it. It was legendary. You can watch the full game on our YouTube channel, and it was a game and a half. I'll just say that.
Gage, I've seen those videos. It's amazing the run you guys went on and saw and read it on Volleyball Magazine last weekend.
Yep.
It's a very impressive ride for 3 guys that are 6'1" and under. But I want to get back to the atmosphere of Wapaka. Were you worried at any point, in terms of social distancing, or just did you have any fears about how many people were there?
So it was more along the lines of, if you're going to go to that event, the kind of risk, but there are precautions that we take. For example, you see in the final, we don't high five. It's more elbowing or saluting from a distance, just kind of stuff along that. But when you go to that event, you got to kind of know the risks, and we took the right precautions when we came back. We quarantined. We got tested twice within a 6-day period. Was negative both those days. So we took the right. If you're gonna do that, you got to be responsible. Take the right precautions, and which we did. So that's why you kind of see us walking outside right now, because we took the right precautions, and we knew we didn't want to put anyone else in danger.
We're talking with 2-time first team All-American Hawaii Libero GAGE WORSLEY on here on the Dave and Tiff podcast. GAGE, you just mentioned that you guys are filming something over at Stanford, part of the Save Stanford men's volleyball program. Not many people know, but you and Joe were ball boys for the Stanford program when you guys were growing up. When you heard the news, what did you take away from it?
Well, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, and we were talking with Jordan, who's our teammate here who plays at Stanford, was kind of like, is this real kind of thing? Like, no way. And then I kind of picked up on social media, so that's, I guess, kind of validated it. And they were just kind of looking at it like, wow, that's like crazy, because, we thought they'd have plenty of money, and if they're running out of money, what else is going to happen? What other programs going under? Because that's what my dad kind of brings, like, all right, so if they're going down, who else is kind of going down? And this whole Corona thing's not over. There's still way more to kind of figure out, so it's like, it's not like a ticking time bomb, but it's kind of like scary to think about. I know luckily I play in a place, Hawaii, where I think we're going to be good to go. Well, not think, we're going to be good to go. But there's the other places that's kind of scary to think about. Might be like, okay, even like being in universities. Like I said, you see Stanford.
Hey, Gage, speaking of, we're talking about Stanford and having them drop the program, but how about with the University of Hawaii? What kind of contact have you guys as a team been having since March through the summer, and what's kind of the schedule moving forward? Like, when are you coming back to Hawaii and all that kind of stuff?
So at the beginning of the whole quarantine kind of thing, when we went back, we had a Zoom call every Tuesday, Thursday. We've kind of cut back on that, so now maybe like once every month, because like, I mean, not a lot of stuff's getting solved. It's like different day to day, so it's not like it's the same old, right? At first there was a lot of information being pumped because no one knew what happened. Now, I mean, we still don't know what's happening, but we kind of know what the place we're in, right? Still working out a bunch. I come back. I'm planning on coming back totally the 12th of August, and then they pushed the quarantine day back, which kind of sucks for me. So I got to quarantine for 14 days. I wish I could get my test, but cannot. So I got a 14-day quarantine. I know a lot of the guys are there still. I saw them playing a grass tournament, a lot of the guys. I know guys are kind of looking at mid-August kind of thing. And I talked to Charlie. I was like, so what's the plan for practice? Or like, we don't even know. I mean, we got to wait for you guys to see the Big West. We're not even sure what's going to happen in the fall here. So until that announces, we don't know anything. It's all still very much in the air. But I come back mid-August, and then probably plan on playing a lot of beach and grass until everything kind of gets figured out.
It's an international program, Gage, and like in your background, like we can all see Rado. We know he's back here on island. Yes, thumbs up to Rado. But it's a program that has a lot of international guys. Guilherme back over in Brazil. You've got Humler in the Czech Republic. You got Spiros coming in from Greece. Dimitrios also from Greece. Have you talked to any of the international guys, and how safe do they feel in their respective country, and when's a possibility of a time they could be making their way to Hawaii?
I know they're gonna try and same in August. I know Phil was kind of stuck because he's one of those countries where you can't like get out of there. So, but luckily we kind of got him out. We kind of hopefully get him back to Hawaii. Get him out. Smuggle him back to Hawaii at a crater ship or something. Get him on a submarine. So yeah, one by one, you're just see these guys pop out of the water. They're just UH men's volleyball players. Don't worry about it. No. But yeah, so we're just kind of figuring that out. Charlie's on it. I don't have any concerns because he's man. The one thing that does concern me is about that fall, about like possibly if they go online and they're gonna have to. I mean, then all the top programs are gonna take a hit. Because then the international players have to go home. But I don't think that's not like a concern. It's just kind of it's a possibility. I mean, at this point, everything's a possibility.
You know, Gage, it's great that you're doing, you have the YouTube and all that kind of occupying a pretty decent amount of time.
Right.
But has it been, like, I'm pretty itchy about having to stay home, and I'm not even an athlete where I got a season that got cut short, so I'm probably pissed off about that because we could have taken it. And you got your seniors coming back for next season, and you're thinking, right on, and but we don't even know if we might have a season, so it's going to be like double anxiety. Are you just ready to just bust out in some way? I mean,
the biggest thing is the seniors coming back. I mean, I hate those guys. Those guys suck. That's the biggest thing I'm pissed off about. I'm just messing with you guys. I mean, 28-man roster. That's gonna be interesting. That's a lot of social distancing. We're gonna be peppering across the gym. It'll be some interesting practices. Our voice will be muffled. We could be practicing with masks on. Who knows? If that's the case, I might as well just get like a full ninja mask. I was thinking about doing that. Just something along those lines. You might as well have fun with it, because in practice you can't really. There's 28 guys running around in masks. Like, oh, that guy with the ninja mask and the samurai sword in the back. That's me. No, but luckily I kind of found again another passion in my life other than volleyball, and that's kind of film and stuff like that. And I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've really invested financially and just like my time to it and my love to it. So it's one of those things where I'm playing a lot of volleyball, so luckily I still have that access. But I'm also, again, there's a lot of problems swimming, but luckily I've had a lot of distractions and a lot of other stuff, the kind of routes that have been like there. So this quarantine, if one thing kind of good came out of it is that we kind of got to do this, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, but also trying to balance that with volleyball. I'm not trying to, but I am balancing that with volleyball. So I'm actually doing a pretty good job of that. I'm not really feeling itchy at all, because if I had to stay home, I just learn more stuff about videos and stuff. So it's kind of nice.
Gage, let's take it back to mid-March after the weekend of the BYU series, and you guys are on the road, getting ready to play CSUN, and you guys start to see conference tournaments in men's basketball, women's basketball start to get canceled. Where were you guys when you found out that the CSUN matches weren't going to happen, the Big West was going to cancel the spring sports, and then when did you find out ultimately that the entire spring sports season was going to be canceled for 2020?
I mean, it all happened within literally a day and a half. Remember, a week prior to that, I was like, Charlie, think our season's going to get canceled? And he was like, no, we should be fine. I was like, all right. So a week later, right? And that's not his fault. I mean, he's just being optimistic. He's just being like, okay, this is going to happen. And I'm not trying to throw shade at Charlie or anything. I would be doing the same thing if I was in the position. So we go, and so obviously our shortest away flight is about 5.5 hours. So we're on a 5.5 hour flight. We land. Okay, that's when we learn about Rudy Gobert. NBA shut down after that. And then from there on, it's a domino effect. We learned that night. We're like, oh, crap. Next day, we're supposed to have a servant pass. And then the day after that, we're supposed to have a game for CSUN. So we're in CSUN, literally in the hotel room. I wake up. Now, like, I'm reading everything and watching everything about coronavirus now. I'm like, oh, what is going on here, right? I want to know what's going on. And so we wake up, and then all of a sudden we're like, and then they're like, yeah, CSUN's kind of tuned to kind of practice today. They haven't, then Charlie's telling us in the team meeting, 6 of the guys, they haven't practiced because 6 of the guys have been out sick with flu-like symptoms. And I'm like, and there's been, apparently, there was like, at the time, there was like 12 or 14 cases on campus at CSUN. And I'm like, I'm not going in that gym. Like, what? Like, hell no. Like, I'm not going to that. Are you crazy? You're gonna drag me in there. Like, and then like, have they wiped the floor? Like, the balls, like, just being paranoid, right? Because I mean, that's all it was, just paranoia at first. It was like, because we didn't know what was going on. So then we're finding out, and then we find out, okay, the Big West is kind of cutting stuff, and then we're like, okay, we got to still stay optimistic. They're still unsafe, whatever. Maybe it was vice versa. No, it was vice versa. They're cutting like the season or just postponing it. And then we're like, okay, we have another team meeting after that. We're in the hotel, so we got to stay positive. It's gonna happen. Like the seniors, like, no, we got to stay positive. It's gonna happen. 30 minutes later, we go into our room. We're watching ESPN because that's where we get our news from. And then bam, our season's been canceled. We go back. We go back to the meeting room. We're like, well, looks like it's not happening, boys. It was definitely a weird moment because then we just realized it's all over. We went over to Devin's dad's house just for the day. He kind of cooked stuff. We were just kind of chilling there. All the seniors basically saying goodbye. Little did they know they're coming back again. And we go back. And then the rest is history. We're living in it now.
Lastly, Gage, you showed us the logo. You showed us the shirt. Is there a way that Dave and I could maybe purchase a shirt so that maybe on the next episode of our Dave and Tiff podcast, we could maybe rep the clothing line?
Okay, so obviously, was that Joe?
Check out my IG.
You're gonna have to check out Joe's IG. So Joe's here. You're gonna have to kind of check out his IG for that. I'm not gonna say anything about that. You're just gonna have to wait. Be very, very patient. We're not very patient at all, but I'll just say be ready, and get ready for Joe's IG. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
All right. Well, Gage, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to your YouTube channel. Give us the channel again.
Out of system.
You see this bad boy right here. Look at this bad boy, this pineapple.
Oh, there you go.
You'll see that right there.
Hey, sweet. Right on. Thanks, Gage, for joining us, and continued success. We look forward to you coming back to Hawaii.
Thank you, Dave, Tiff. Thank you so much for your time.
All right.
Thanks, Gage.
Gage Worsley on the car, on the road, joining us with Rado, by the way. So great job there joining us here on the Dave and Tiff podcast.
Dave, what did I tell you? The last couple of weeks, we knew that Gage was going to be joining us. Get your popcorn ready because you had questions to ask, I had questions to ask, and you just give Gage one question, and you just don't know where he's going to go. But how sweet, how cool is that out-of-system logo they have? How great is that pineapple?
It's a pineapple, but I wanted to ask him, what is IG? He said
Instagram.
Oh.
It's that other social media platform that we use to help promote our show.
I never heard it as IG, you millennial. Now I know. Okay, so IG, got it. Well, Gage Worsley, glad to chat with him, and looks like they're having a lot of fun. But I can sense that frustration and anxiety in him as to not knowing what's going to be happening once they come back to University of Hawaii. So we will wait on that. But let's go to some funner things a little bit here. Well, not that Gage wasn't fun. Heck, that was fun. Tiff's Corner. I always go into every week. So what's in the corner, Mr. Wells?
All right, Dave. So last week we talked about the basketball tournament with Sideline Cancer and Golden Eagles. Marcus Keene, the one-time Moana Lewis standout, a part of Sideline Cancer. His team loses in the final to the Golden Eagles, but we found out throughout social media last week that every member And how cool is this? Every member of the Golden Eagles squad pledged to make a donation to the Griffith Family Foundation to honor the team that they beat in the final, Sideline Cancer.
You know, and we talked about it earlier. The thing about this pandemic, you get to find out more of these kinds of stories about people doing things outside of the court, outside of the field, and it's always good stuff.
Here at home, this was announced last week, Tuesday. Former Rainbow Wahine Libero Rika Okino is one of 8 Big West Conference representatives for the NCAA Woman of the Year. She graduated magna cum laude in civil engineering, was a Hawaii Council of Engineering Society's Student Engineer of the Year, and a 4-time UH Scholar.
God, I could barely stay above 2.0 without having athletics, and now these athletes are just kicking butt. Congratulations to her.
Congratulations indeed. Major League Baseball, we mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, beginning on Thursday. They're going to have crowd noise simulated from their video game, MLB The Show, that's going to be played throughout the sound systems at every Major League ballpark, minus Toronto, because of the Canadian restrictions that teams cannot enter or leave the country. So how cool is it that they're going to use their video game to simulate fan noise, boos, cheers throughout each game?
Oh, can you imagine this? Wherever the Houston Astros go, that home field, they're going to crank up the boos big time. Maybe even the Boston Red Sox. They're going to crank it up. And think about this. When you hit a home run, right? Boom! Can you imagine how dead it is when there's no fans, just to be running the bases in silence? That would be kind of corny to kind of be a part of that. So yeah,
exactly.
You got to have that atmosphere.
You got to have the atmosphere. And like we've seen, hockey's going to begin the first week of August. The NBA, you're excited for the NBA starting up next week. Lastly, in the corner, this one's a little interesting. Rice University in Texas, they're scheduled to hold their classes on campus, but they're going to do some of their classes in outdoor tents. They're asking students to bring their own chairs. And mind you, Rice is a private university. Tuition alone is $50,000. Room and board is about $14,500. This is all the financial information is on their website. So you're asking kids to pay $64,000 a year and then bring their own chair to an outdoor tent. Mind you, you've been to the state of Texas. I have as well. It's not just hot in the state of Texas come fall. It's hot and humid.
Well, that fall semester through October is going to be pretty challenging, but you know what? I'll take that if it means that the students can come back to campus. So at least, granted, it'll be a little uncomfortable, a little bit abnormal, but to be able to come to campus, first, it's going to be just online. So students can still have the campus experience, which I think, you know, as we talk about public schools here coming back, where it's only going to be 1 day a week, everything else is online, you forget about the social and emotional dynamic that we've missed because we've been stuck at home and not being able to interact with people. And I'll take the tent and the chair. Granted, Rice will have nice chairs. I think the bookstore is going to start selling really cool chairs.
You would think.
As long as the students can come back on campus.
And I know I said last thing about Rice, but I just saw this thing pop up earlier today. We talked a lot of football, a lot of MLS, but the MLS is back tournament. One of the teams, LAFC, has a tailgate kit sponsored with one of their food partners. It's a collab with Soul Sausages, who has a eatery in Los Angeles, and they're making this tailgate kit ahead of the third and final match in group play on Thursday. And for $59, you can get this food package feeds 4. It includes fried chicken, veggie sticks, sausages, buns, nachos, and it also includes this collab patch with Soul Sausages and LAFC. And this is something that we've talked about throughout every episode of our podcast, of these different types of fundraisers, different types of collaborations. Marketing departments have to be very creative into marketing their product to raise some sort of money, because some of these teams, some of these franchises aren't having the ability to bring in fans for that direct source of revenue.
And a huge part of the revenue. So you combine creativity with food. Hey, that's a winner. Throw in a little freebie patch. Hey, they're winning it right there, man. I'll be eating it up and putting it on, just like how we're asking for free stuff. Anybody wants a little free patch or logo? That's a good one.
And you know, UH has a lot of food partners, so there are a lot of all of them. All their food sounds really good, and I'm sure you can imagine at some point in time there's going to be some sort of collaboration, and if there is, you and I are all over it.
Oh, totally all over it. Yeah, that'll be another one of the great things about the pandemic. It stretches the creativity of all of our marketing folks into how to do business without the main core of business, like, without your main revenue. Fans is a big, huge part of it that you're going to have to do without. So that's up to everyone to kind of band together on that.
This one was fun. This podcast was fun, and it almost wraps up July. You're gonna be on hiatus next week.
Yeah, so we'll take a break next week, and then we'll be back starting August, and hopefully we'll have more updates related to the high school sports and how that's going to be going on, as well as college sports. If there's some finalizations regarding football in the fall, 2 weeks into University of Hawaii and other colleges getting into their workouts, we'll see how it goes with that. I want to thank our guest, GAGE WORSLEY, coming from Moraga, California, and go to his YouTube page, Out of System 808, right?
Yes, Out of System 808. You can go to it directly on YouTube. If you're on IG, that's Instagram for people of the age of my co-host Dave Kawada. Go check it out. Go subscribe, like it. It's the content. It's unique. It's one of a kind, and especially watch their videos. They have a lot of good guys behind the scenes. We talked about Rada Panapunov, Max Rosenfeld. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to it on the IG. Now that I know what that is. And until our next podcast, Tiff, thank you so much. Stay safe, everyone. And until then, see y'all later.
Bye.